The Xiaomi Mi 5S Plus cellular phone camera comes equipped with both a rear 13MP Sony monochrome and color sensor. Providing native 4K, they can be wiretapped each separate as well as combined in stereo mode. At the front side, the Mi 5S Plus provides a 4MP ultra-pixel camera which allows 30 frames per second video recordings at Full HD resolution. Other than most of the videos out there, which either try to cover the whole functionality of Xiaomi's latest flagship Mi 5S Plus, we focus here specifically on the outstanding front as well as the excellent stereo rear camera that stands in direct concurrence to Apple's iPhone 7, Huawei's P9, the Honor 8, the latest Samsung Galaxy line, and even Google's new Pixel phone. Also, this is not just an unboxing video of a phone that comes attached with a strange Chinese adapter outside of its stylish packaging. We will have music and all kind of photo, video, slow motion and time-lapse footage in the end. But first we want to walk you, in great detail, through all the camera-specific aspects, elements, effects and menus, so that you will have a deep impression of this audiovisual media machine. Okay, so let me walk you through the camera menu real fast. This is how you're welcomed. And on the top left you have the possibility to change between flash off, automatic, on or torch. That means when you activate the torch you will have a permanent light shining here, which can also be used as a video light. Next, on the top right you have the Hdr Mode, which you can switch off, auto or on. Let me give you an example. So this would be without HDR, and when you switch it on, the similar photograph may look like this. I will deactivate it by now. Downstairs here you have access to different effects which you can just apply over your photographs directly. Especially the tunnel is so interesting. But in more detail it looks like that. Yeah, okay, so first this is normal without any modification, then Lomo effect, color pop effect, the rustic effect, the icy effect, the vivid effect with strong saturation, analog style, matte style effect, a monochrome and black and white effect, but both using the color sensor, it's not the true black and white, the sketch effect, the spread effect, the squeeze effect, which centers the pixel towards the center, the stretch effect, or even more extreme, the fisheye effect, the mosaic effect on the inside or outside of a square, the mirror effect, and last but not least, the already mentioned tunnel effect. On the right side, you can switch between the two cameras. Right now we are using the color camera on the back side of the telephone. When I click this button, we automatically turn over to selfie mode. And when we are already in the selfie mode, I can show you here on the top right, you have some kind of beautify function, which is right now deactivated, so you see me as usually. But when you go to the smart mode, then eventually it will decide to make me a little bit more beautiful. Or when you switch to the pro mode, then it tries to give the illusion to make the person as young as possible, which means there will be a new layer, kind of like a blur on top of the skin. Plus additionally, they try to make the chin area slimmer and also to widen the eyes, because this usually is supposed to be more cute according to the psychological studies. So I will give you a test photo first without the beautify mode, then one more in smart mode, and last but not least the pro mode. Actually, when we now come to the modes menu, you should know that when the selfie camera is activated, you have much less options to choose from. So basically here you're left with the timer, which makes it possible to choose between a different range of seconds to activate the photo after a certain period of time. And then as an alternative in selfie mode, there is only audio left, which means you can activate the photograph by sound. Let me show you this. Now. Okay, that's already it about the selfie mode. We will switch to the rear camera, which has a much higher resolution, around 13 megapixel. And here when you enter the modes menu, there is a much bigger choice. For example, you can go to panorama mode, timer, audio, manual, straighten, beautify, HHT, tilt shift and mono. Also on the top right you have a little gear which gives access to the more specific functions. Whereas you can save the location info, which means activate the GPS and store the additional GPS info inside the photograph. You have the camera sounds to activate or not. With the camera itself you can add a timestamp inside the photo or also an age stamp inside the photo, which goes over to the subjective machine intelligence trying to interpret the average age of a person that is supposed to be photographed. Then you can show or hide the grid lines, scan QR codes, enhance low light photography automatically, notify when flash is needed, press and hold the shutter button will lead to burst, shoot or focus, select camera frame between 16:9 or 4:3, choose picture quality between low, standard or high, activate or switch off face detection, show age and gender in beautify mode as I already explained, modify the volume buttons function between shutter, zoom or volume, anti-bending in auto 60 or 50 Hz or off, modify the auto exposure settings from average over center weighted to spot metering, change contrast level from lowest to highest in 7 different steps, change saturation in 7 different steps, adjust the digitally added sharpness or go back to the default settings. By the way, actually what was to be seen here in the background of this little menu animation was a simple panorama stitched together using the panorama mode in the down left of our menu. When you move the camera through space, the menu is animated accordingly. I assume that depending on the information which the light sensor of the telephone receives, the color of the background is changing. So now, before we come to the professional functions of this camera, I want to quickly finish the explanation of the whole menu in rear camera photo mode. After panorama, you have self-timer and audio activation as it was explained in selfie mode already. Also the beautify mode you are aware of by now. The straighten mode is just a help. I think it is using the inbuilt digital water balance, which means if you do a photo like that, then as a result you will have a photo straight and crop in a little bit. Let's go back. What's left now, besides the professional functions, is only tilt shift, a digital effect which simulates a macro lens, both in parallel or also in circle mode. So you have this kind of defocused vignette on the outside of the photograph, which makes the motif itself look much more tiny like that. Let's turn off this, go back to the modes menu. Last but not least, we have the HHT mode and it looks like the moon, but to be honest, I tried all kind of things, didn't really see any difference on the picture. Probably it's interpreting the light in a different way. Probably also it will have an effect on the post-processing of the JPEGs, trying to reduce some noise, but honestly I don't really know. I didn't find any explanation in the internet. So this would be with HHT and that one without. Now we come to manual mode, mono mode, which gives access to the inbuilt rear black and white camera chip. In front here we can activate with this little dial next to the arm of the Buddha the stereo mode, which then combines both cameras and leads to excellent image results. So first, manual gives you access to white balance with different standard sets, including the possibility to modify the white balance manually. You can change the focus, which makes a nice sound. Back to auto. You have influence on the exposure time in a range of half a second down to 1/1000th of a second, and also you can define ISO steps from 100 up to 3200. Turn off manual. Then, as I mentioned already, here is the mono mode, which can read directly the data from the built-in black and white sensor, which is much more sensitive to light, and therefore it can dramatically improve also the quality of the color pictures taken with this camera when you combine the color and black and white sensor using the stereo mode. By the way, I want to show you how focus is functioning. When I click here, the camera tries to adjust exposure and focus to this point here, but still, if you don't like the light like this, you have these little two arrows here on the right side of the circle, which gives you access to manual exposure control. This is available actually in most of the camera modes. Let's have a look at this one. I'll zoom in for a second. So this is what you can expect from the black and white sensor. Really convincing, I guess. And turning off mono mode, we will finally enter the stereo mode using the little wheel here on the top of the modes button as shown right now. So you see the colors get more rich. The stereo mode makes sense, especially also during daylight, as you will see in the following photographic examples. We will switch over to the video camera mode of this machine. Video. Here in modes, you have only access to either slow motion or time-lapse. You will see examples of both of these modes in the following sequences of the video. Just to finish this one here, the gear gives access to many functions that we have already seen before, with the difference that you can define if it shall be possible to capture images while recording video, or you can switch between the different video formats ranging from 4K down to SD at 480p. Actually, slow motion functions only with 720p. We will try to upscale a 720p image to 4K so that you can guess what quality to expect. So this menu here, very similar to what we already saw with the photography. Same as in photo mode, you have also access to modify the exposure of your shots, but whatever exposure you set while filming, the camera will automatically continue to adjust focus and also exposure. That means it's not really possible to reach professional results while using this phone, at least not when you are using the app, which comes included with the camera. conclusion, because of the missing built-in steady shot, you will not be able to reach very beautiful results when you are not willing to be a little bit patient and really understand the sub-menus of this machine. So for the casual shot, it's probably not the best option. But on the other hand, if you really open up for the details of this technology, then you can produce some stunning results. Nevertheless, when you imagine to use a 3-axis gimbal, like a kind of mechanical stabilizer together with this machine, then all this extra shaking may be gone, and therefore the resulting footage could even reach a professional level. And as always, don't forget to click like if you like it and follow this channel, because this is how you can support all the energy we put into this project.